Hi, I'm with Todd Attridge today, and he's running for Council Ward 1.
Ward 1, that's right. Yep.
Right. Well, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I have 5 lightning questions for you. You're on the
Okay.
hot seat.
Awesome.
So here we go.
Yeah.
So my first question pertains to you.
Oh, okay, cool.
If you were given a magic wand to change anything in this town, what would it be and why? Or should I say again, if you had a magic wand and could change anything in this town, what would you change and why?
I think the very first thing I would change is around affordable housing. Because I actually think it's the nut that we need to crack in order to, first of all, make sure that people have obviously a place to live. So it's simple enough. But we've got lots of folks who are minimum wage earners and they don't have a place to live. The layers on that onion are really complex because, so let's say for the sake of this conversation, minimum wage is $15. It's a little bit more than that, but let's say it's $15, right? You work 40 hours, you're into $600 a week, 24 $100 over the course of a month, which means you really can only afford $800 a month for a place to live, right? Because the affordability is at a 30% mark, right? So right, so we don't have anything that's going to get you into that level, right? That's available. So if you happen to be partnered up with someone, right? So let's say you've got a boyfriend, girlfriend together, you get into $1,600 a month. So now you're into affordability. The layers of that become a bit more complex because what happens if it becomes an abusive relationship? You can't escape that. So that in itself it becomes problematic. If we push that aside to the fact that if we can't find people also who can find affordable housing all on their own, because we haven't even talked about what happens if you happen to be a single parent and you need a 2-bedroom place, right? That causes its own issues. But then also, if you want to build industry, you can't build industry without a workforce. Workforce doesn't exist here. So you need to make sure that works in as well, and so that restricts us on that. So there are so many tentacles that come out of affordable housing.
The housing.
We need to get in there, and we need to make sure that people want to live here and can enjoy living here and can enjoy living here affordably. Right now we just don't have that.
Yep. So affordable housing. That's cool. The second one will be about business and environment.
Yeah.
What do you think is more important, the business development of the municipality or the environmental concerns of the residents? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
One more thing. And if your answer is the balance of both, how do you think will you be doing this as part of your agenda?
Yeah, because I was going to say I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Because I think so. We need to stop thinking about Port Hope as a town and remember it's a municipality. And as a municipality, there's a significant amount of agricultural land, which actually is part of the economic development of what's going on. So we've got the businesses downtown, which is fantastic, and we need to make sure that they survive, especially because, as you know, we're going to be chewing up downtown Walton Street. So we need to make sure that we're protecting those folks. But we also, as councillors, whether you're Ward 1 or Ward 2, it doesn't really matter. Like, one of the things that I'm really conscious of is that as a Ward 1 councillor, I still vote on things that impact Ward 2. And so you need to understand Ward 2 just as well as you understand Ward 1 because these are the livelihoods of those people. So in the environmental part actually intersects with agriculture, and as we start looking at industry, there's no reason why we can't be looking at green industry. So economic development is one thing. Community economic development is completely different, which is you want to look at the entire community as a whole and holistically, and then go out and target industries that are going to build the community in the vision that you actually want, versus saying, hey, we need industry, come one, come all, and you start pulling in industry in that may not serve the interests of the community. So when you're talking about business and environment, you actually can have your cake and eat it too. You just need to make sure, okay, if green industry is what we're looking at, maybe it's going to be tech, maybe it's going to be stuff that's going to serve the environment. Then you go out and you target that, bring it in. The tax base then broadens because there's actually good tax dollars that goes with industry and agriculture, right? So we just need to make sure that we're thinking holistically and looking long term enough.
Perfect. So My next question is in regards to the old and the new.
Okay.
Knowing that a big demographic of our town are older and retirees,
Yep.
how do you think we should balance the plans with our youth? Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
If we have a large population of the retirees and seniors in our community.
Yep.
How will you balance their needs while increasing opportunities for our youth?
Well, again, I think you can do both, right? So with the retirees, there's what they're going to need is they're going to need accessibility. They're going to need, well, one of the things that I'm going to circle back to the affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get affordable housing and get additional residential units in homes of retirees, you end up allowing those retirees to stay in their homes longer because they can convert a basement into a basement apartment. That money can then sort of funnel in there. It could be a young family, so we can take people who are of youth and maybe they haven't generated enough income in order to get a house yet, but a basement apartment could go for $800. That $800 could go to a senior. That senior then can go and hire people to do the yard work, or bring groceries, or all the things that they would need to stay in a home longer, get additional
Modern day
care.
granny flat, I guess.
It's a modern, yeah, and like at the end of the day, first of all, you get the youthfulness of having, and that in itself is a mental health issue of having, elderly people with younger people, and so now you get them cohabitating, which is
Yes.
fantastic. They're serving each other's needs. An $800 basement apartment serves the needs of the people who need to have something that's a bit more affordable that way. But then also that $800, if the senior who happens to own the house outright altogether, that's an additional passive income.
Correct.
And this is the kind of thing, like, it's the intersection of different ideas, and we need to be able to think holistically about the problems and go, okay, so one problem doesn't necessarily get one solution. What you need to go is, what's problem A, B, C, and D, and what are the intersectionality of all of those solutions? Because when we start thinking bigger that way, we can actually solve more things by putting in really clever and well thought out solutions instead of just being reactionary to something
Yes.
and go, this is what it should be.
So my next question is about the First Nations.
Oh, great.
Do you have a truth and reconciliation plan with the Indigenous people?
Mm.
If so, what is your agenda in this? Or what are your plans to help our community participate in reconciliation with the Indigenous people?
Yeah, so I would say, personally, I don't know if I have a plan more than a philosophy.
Okay.
I think the most important thing that we can do when it comes to truth and reconciliation is not pretend, especially, okay, so I am a descendant of the colonial system, right? So I have to accept and wrap my arms around the fact that I am a beneficiary of privilege that not everyone in our community has, right? To then use that privilege to believe that I know the solution for First Nations and what they need just furthers the problem. What we need to be able to do is reach out to First Nations and ask them, what is it that you need? How can we move forward? So I'll give you a quick example. The statue in front of Town Hall, right? And so the knee-jerk reaction is, well, we just take that thing down, right, and get rid of it. But the truth of the matter is, when we reach out to First Nations, and I'm not pretending that I've done this, but let's say for the sake of this conversation, you reach out to First Nations, and First Nations say to us, don't take it down, because it's actually erasing what you did in this part of the story. Instead, leave it, and we would like to erect our half of the story so that now you get the full story, because right now the story's only been told halfway. And so when you tell the full story, then people can sit there and go, okay, I understand what's happened.
I like that.
Right? Versus saying, hey, you know what, sorry, let's erase this side, pretend it never happened. That's not my personal opinion. My philosophy is that's not the right way to go, but it's not for me to choose. It has to go over to First Nations to say, how would you like your voice heard? And what we need to do as colonists, and so our descendants of colonists, is to be able to say, listen, we had the stage for a long time, now we need to give the mic to you and give you the stage, and you tell us, what do you need next?
Beautiful. So my last question.
Okay.
Corporations and our local people.
Okay.
The current large corporations and developers that are stakeholders in our township do have a lot to say in the most projects here. How can you make sure that the local residents' interests are met? Another way of saying it, I guess, is at present there are large corporate developers with the influence and resources to have their say about most projects here. Can you balance corporate interests and the interests of the residents to ensure that the people who live here are also heard?
Totally. Yeah, well, that actually comes back to community economic development. So, economic development in the most traditional sense is really about we need to build the economy, so we're going to go out and find businesses and industry that's going to come in. That's its truest sense. Community economic development is say, here is how we want to create a community. What are the pieces that we need to seek out in order to put together to make that come together? So one of the challenges, and it happens very often, is that the silent majority disappears and the loud minority rises to the top. And so what we need to be able to do is give agency, space, and voice to the silent majority, and be able to reach out and no different from, hey, if these are the industries that are going to build the community, we'll go seek them out. The voices within the community, you go seek them out. It's different from saying, we're going to have an open house, why don't you come by? And then go, oh, no one came by, so I guess they didn't want to speak. No, it's actually about going out and saying, I actually need to hear your answer, and meet them where they're at. And that can be in different modalities, right? That can be like, some of it's going to be online, some of it's going to be on boots on the ground, some of it's going to be, coming into the community, some of that's going to be like you have, like it's this, right? You have to be able to, and be willing to and intentional about saying, here are the voices of the stakeholders we haven't heard yet, let's go find them. And then ask. It's like, let's take Walton Street, for example. Walton Street's going to get chewed up. I could sit here with you and pretend that I know all the solutions for the businesses and what they need in order to survive. The truth of the matter is you need to go to the businesses and say, hey, what is it that you need help with in order to get through this for the next couple of years? And recognize that it's not going to be one solution solves everything, right? It's going to be sitting down and really being intentional. And I think if we're going to build a vibrant community of the future, right, where everyone sees themselves in it, there is a culture of belonging and inclusion where I can look around and go, yeah, this is me, then you have to reach all those pockets, and you have to do it with intention, not just hoping that these people are going to show up. It doesn't work that way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, Todd. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Good luck.